Okay, here we go. Answering viewers' comments. Let's see. Someone watched the documentary and said, outstanding. Well, thank you. Very nice of you to say that. We've got I like this name, Unwinding into Being. Unwinding into Being said, Muji used to say, don't ever think you're not arrogant. Yeah, right? Is that arrogant to think you're not arrogant? I like to say, don't ever underestimate the power of delusion. Always be open to your own fixations or your own beliefs that are distorting or limiting. Always be open to any identity structure that may be appearing, any selfing that may be ongoing, any feedback you get from others. You have to kind of consider the source, of course, but, just be open to that because we're all human and we all have these nervous systems that have the tendency to fixate, to form beliefs based on patterns that we're not always conscious of. So all of that is ripe for the picking when it comes to observation, inquiry, and vulnerability to your own potential flaws. Let's see. This is in reference to the video, Violet Describes the Big Death. That was a video that was really triggering to a lot of people. This person, Andrew McDowell, said, that's exactly what I went through. It's like the rug is pulled out from under you and nothing external brings you the security you used to feel. No option but to go inwards. Yeah, it's as these identity structures start dropping away, we realize a big part of what they are doing is sort of partitioning our experience through the use of identity, which is odd, but that is what it does. So it partitions experience such that we can avoid or not see certain aspects of our perhaps sometimes dysfunctional coping mechanisms, or not recognize that we're feeling a certain emotion and we're sort of in the reaction formation based on that, completely identified with a different view and not realizing that view is underpinned by fear or jealousy or greed or anger or whatever. So this partitioning effect that identity structures have starts to dismantle when identity dismantles. So that can be daunting to say the least. But at some point when you can't really hide anything from yourself anymore, it's good, right? It's a good thing because everything is revealed and we have the opportunity and duty really to feel it all, see it all, hear it all, and recognize that there's no need to hide. There's no need to bury anything. There's no need to repress anything. That you have a vast bandwidth for experience, and the clarity is immediately available at all times. So it's a good thing, but it can be quite an adjustment. Someone said, I love you, Angelo. Well, I love you too. This is from Karen Roll. I do know Karen. She's very sweet. Okay. And then someone said, who is Angelo? Well, that's the question, isn't it? I don't know the answer. I can't give you an answer to that, but I can tell you in the relative, this person's asking about the documentary called Awake, It's Your Turn, part 1. And they said, who's Angelo? Probably because a few people mentioned my name in there. I kind of weighed whether I want to, because in the interviews, it just came up that way. People would say, oh, I met Angelo and this happened and that. So I was in the editing of the documentary to be like totally objective, maybe leave me out of it, leave the interviewer out of it, or the producer of the documentary. So I kind of weighed that and I thought, I don't know, it's more authentic to the story to tell the story the way they told the story. So I left that in there and there were a couple references to me in there. So anyway, if anyone is unsure who Angelo is, I'm the one that produced the movie through Simply Always Awake, and also I'm in the movie. So there you go. Someone said, so are we to drop all beliefs? And are we not to believe in the law of attraction? I feel like being neutral is being in denial and avoidant. Okay. This is the video, Weird Stuff Started Happening. This is an interview with someone who is a well-known author, actually, in the space of the law of attraction. And you can find her 2-3 different videos where we discuss her awakening and then the evolution of her awakening. Her name's Sasha. She's incredibly interesting to listen to. She's just very, very articulate and describes awakening very precisely. So to answer the question, are we to drop all beliefs? I don't know. Can you drop a belief? Like, is it such a thing that you can drop? If you think you're dropping a belief, you're probably just adding another belief, probably. So it's not so much like taking a belief and dropping it. It's more like seeing clearly what the beliefs are. That's so much of the battle, that we have so many beliefs that are hidden. We have associated beliefs with other beliefs that we are aware of that are hidden. For instance, I often will tell people, in the sort of positive thinking genre, you might learn, okay, well, get rid of limiting beliefs and then add beliefs that are positive about yourself. That's terrible. That's terrible advice. I don't think that actually is helpful, because we don't realize how binding the idea like I'm a good person can be, right? We might think, oh, I'm a bad person. And then we realize, well, that's a limiting belief. And that comes with a lot of, shame and maybe even self-violence or something. So let's replace it with a belief that says I'm a good person. There are two reasons I don't think this is helpful. One is I don't think it works. I don't think you actually got rid of the other belief by just sort of constructing another belief. I think what happens is you sort of divide your identity up a little bit more. So that belief, that insecurity is still there, but what you're doing is voluntarily creating a reaction formation of this sort of external persona of confidence, if that makes sense. So that's the mechanism, I think, largely. The other thing is that we don't realize when we believe something like I am a good person, how binding that actually is. It can be really uncomfortable, because what happens then is you have cognitive dissonance when something happens that is maybe not in alignment with what you think a good person is supposed to be. So then you either avoid seeing something about your own actions or beliefs or behaviors, or you repress an emotion in association with that event, for instance. Rather, if you have sort of a belief or just an observation that like you're human, you're a dynamic process that changes all the time. So there are going to be things that happen or that you do that could be described as selfish, self-centered, or maybe unkind. And there's going to be things that you do that would be considered kind and compassionate and altruistic. Like all of that's going to happen, of course, right? To various degrees. But what I find is simply that the clearer you see all of this, your tendencies, your beliefs, your triggers, your reactivity, your resistance patterns, like the more clearly you see all that and the more clearly you feel all the emotion, and then just feel the underlying sensations and energies of the emotion, then things just come into a natural alignment. That's what I find. You just naturally become both altruistic and also having good boundaries for yourself. Like I find that those are not incompatible, and they come together very naturally. So this is what awakening is about. When we talk about awakening, we're talking about the truth that awake nature, which isn't in your control, and it's not even, it can't even be described in human terms really, because it's just beyond the confines of everything we consider to be human in our minds. That awake nature manages things so well. There's a Zen master who I quote all the time, Bankei, who would say, everything is perfectly managed in the unborn. And unborn means unborn and undying. But he just kind of said the unborn after a while. And that's true. It is, actually. And that's what we wake up to. We wake up to that truth, and it releases us from so much burden of having to like think of ourselves in this way and that way and define ourselves and try to manage thoughts. And like that whole world is so, I don't know. It's so entangled. It's such an entangled world. It causes so much struggle. It causes so much burning up of mental energy and self doubt. And it's so cerebral, right? That whole world. It turns out you don't need that. You don't need it at all. It's a reflection. It's just a mental process that's kind of running in the background. But it feels like it's in the foreground when we give it undue attention. When we realize we don't have to put a lot of energy into that, we can just let it subside naturally and wake up to the truth of this that doesn't need your help. And it has an infinite energy reserve, actually, and it has infinite creativity. It has infinite flexibility. That's what this is about. And then these concerns about like, what do I do with my thoughts? And should I, I don't know, favor these kinds of thoughts and avoid these kinds of thoughts? And how do I manage, like all of that goes out the window. It's much more about being than thinking and analysis. Kapla-Roshi, a Zen master who wrote the 3 Pillars of Zen, famously said, and I love that he always said things in simple ways, but very profound ways. He said, stop talking and thinking so much and start feeling and acting and living, right? That's it. That's what this is about. And it goes so deep. The depth of clarity and the depth of experience are unfathomable when we get out of the mind. Someone says, I love when you guide self-inquiry. Perfect gold. Oh, well, good. I'm glad you liked it. This comes from a video called Having Trouble with Self-Inquiry? Try this. Yeah, self-inquiry is an interesting thing. If you don't know what it is and I just say inquire into yourself, or if I just say ask who you are, ask yourself who you are, I don't think it would get very far for most people. Probably because it would just remain intellectual very quickly, or you would ask the question and then very quickly just get lost in thoughts about, well, who am I? I don't know. Is it Descartes? Is it a Cartesian question? Like, I think, therefore I am, and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts, like multiplying thoughts. But if you listen to maybe a lecture on inquiry by someone who has that insight, or someone can sort of dial you into how it actually works, what the mechanics are of it, what the purpose is of it for you, what the purpose is for you, how it relates to your own deepest promptings and instincts, how to approach it, and some of the pitfalls, it can become very powerful. It can be a really powerful process, especially when you understand that you can take it on yourself and adjust for your own proclivities and your own tastes and your own tendencies and your own instinct. And it can really, really catch on fire. So that's why I make a lot of videos about that. If you're interested in inquiry, self-inquiry, I have a playlist called, I think it's just called Inquiry. Okay. Someone asks, he mentions TRE. What is that? Trauma releasing exercise or tension releasing exercise. So you can do this on your own. You can do it for free, and you can learn it online. You can learn it on YouTube. David Berceli is the guy who invented it, and I interviewed him. Check out the interview. It's awesome. It's a very powerful somatic modality. And like I said, you can learn it on your own. But once you learn it, or when you're ready to dial it in, you can get a facilitator and just work with somebody for an hour, even over video, and they can really dial you in to the process. And it's very transformative for a lot of people. It can really get under pain states a lot of times, emotion states that are hard to get to, and if done ongoing in the long term, it can be really, really valuable to just release energetic tensions, essentially. So, yeah. This comes from Oneness, 1976. When the wheels come off, this is just a short I made, but they said it literally obliterates the little self. Yeah, that's right. The little self. It doesn't even obliterate it. It reveals that it was never there. And this is important. It's an important point. Because if you were to ask me, did a little self obliterate itself, in my experience, like, there was never anything like that, very obviously. But the feeling that there was, the perception that there was, and then trying to, that's why it's so uncomfortable. You're trying to create something that doesn't exist. You're trying to uphold something that doesn't exist. You're trying to defend something that doesn't exist. That's literally what suffering is. Or it was for me, right? Trying to wear a costume that you can't find. Like, of course that's going to cause suffering. You're trying to go against the stream of reality, right? When you're trying to defend a self, a separate self, you can't find anything that's separate. It doesn't work that way. Reality doesn't actually work that way. You won't find it except in one place, and that's in thought. But when you see the nature of thought, then you realize, oh, thought is a rearranged set of reflections. That's all it is. It can make nothing look like something. Yeah. So yeah, there's a significant amount of distortion that arises in identification with thought, and that's what this is all about. Okay. This is from James. It says, difficult not to fall back into the clinging, and then you're back in the dream. Mm-hmm. Can be for a while, I suppose. This is a really strange one, this whole thing and this is very common. Of course, I'm not talking about James specifically, because this goes on for everybody to various degrees until it stops, which it can. The clinging can stop completely. You should know that. But it's a strange thing in that If you buy into one single little thought, then yes, it's very difficult. It's difficult. It goes on and on. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of traumas to address. Yeah, from the standpoint of thought, which I can't deny that world seems to exist, it's difficult. It takes some time, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of shadow work and unbinding. And at the same time, it's so easy. In fact, it's effortless. It's the effort that's the problem. It's the buying into the efforting one that's the problem. Effort doesn't exist really in the way I was speaking about in the previous comment. It's the sense of efforting that buys you into those thoughts, right? Like once you put work into something, you want to get something out of it. So once you buy into the belief that all this is hard work, you want to get something out of that hard work. So you're looking for right? And then you believe in time and you believe in doership and time. They're prisons. There's no way to think about time without feeling like you're in a prison, period. Anytime you perceive time, you will feel stuck, small, contracted. It's just how it goes, right? When you see that there is no time, actually, and I point to this over and over and over, and I have a lot of videos on it. When you see that there is no time, this is timeless, this for you, for me, for no one, it's timeless. There is no time. Then how long does it take to wake up? How long were you asleep? How long have you been alive? How old is the universe? These questions have no answers. So how are you going to cling here? How are you going to cling here? What are you clinging to? When did the clinging start and when will it end? These questions have no answers because they're absurd unless you believe in time and agency, like separation, like there's an agent apart from experience that's clinging to it or can let go of it. Does that make sense? So yeah, this is a very strange one because again, I won't deny the relative because I know you can experience that and it feels very, very real. And I empathize with that. At the same time, it's not really happening. And that's important for me to say to you, so, okay. Someone here says, what's insight? Insight. These are a lot of questions on shorts, which is fun. I don't get a lot of questions on shorts. What is insight? The funny thing is the person who said this will probably never see this video, but that's okay. What is insight? When I talk about insight, I mean something very specific. I don't mean intellectual insight, right? You can get intellectual insight, learn something and realize, oh, that's how that works, right? That's how math works or science or whatever, right? There's that kind of insight, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's intellectual knowledge. That's learning. When I say insight, I mean direct insight. Insight into the nature of reality, insight into the nature of identity, or maybe the simplest way to say it is to say insight into your true nature, right? Which may not be a self. How do you look there? How do you look inward? How do you do that right now? Try it. Look inward right now. Where do you look? Which direction? Where don't you look? Though there's one place not to look. That's the instruction from me, usually. Don't look in thoughts. So when you say, oh, I'm so-and-so, no, you're not. That's a thought. You were there before that thought appeared and you're there after that thought, right? Or it sure seems like it. So what are you? Where are you? Well, I'm a body. Oh, okay. When you're looking straight out, do you see a body? No, so it's a thought. That's a thought, something you learned. Okay. What are you now? What are you? What are you without time? What are you without separation? What are you without agency? Look there. That's where the insight you'll find the insight there. But you won't find it like you collected something. You'll find it like something about the one looking will change. That's it. That's insight. Good question. Okay. Someone says, just a beautiful conversation full of awe and delight and humor. Two lovely beings. That was me talking to Richard Lang about the Headless Way. That was a fun conversation and a really fun video. All right. Someone asked, where did this archetype of a heaven-soaring spirit, a dragon with a heaven-soaring spirit arise from? It touched me deeply. Matteo. Matteo, here's the deal. Wait, no, that's not Matteo. That's Matt Elio. Oh, Matt Elliott. Excuse me. Sometimes it's hard to read these names because they're all squished together. Matt Elliott said, where did the archetype of the dragon with a heaven-soaring spirit arise from? It's funny how many people asked me this at the retreat after I said it. To be honest, I have no idea. I didn't think about it at all. So sometimes I close my eyes at the beginning of a talk or guided, and it's just blank. There's nothing. And then something comes. And that time this came, and I could just feel it. So it needed to be said, or it wanted to be said. But what was so fascinating is, like, when people would ask me more about it, I would say, I can't tell you more about it, but I know you can find it. And several people came forward through the next few days with really incredible descriptions of what that actually led them to. So yeah, I don't know, but I do know it means something to you. And I know you can find the answer. That's the beauty of it. And thank you for the feedback. Okay. Never underestimate the power of delusion. Yeah, exactly. Okay, someone said, I lived from that place for almost a year, or someplace very nice at least, a place where the events in my experience were as fine as they were. Nothing bothered me like it would have before, but then something did bother me. Infidelity from my partner, and ever since then I've lost that place. Okay. Oh, this is long. Oh my goodness, very long question. I think I already answered it. No, yeah, I didn't respond to it. Okay. My question is, wouldn't the most awakened person have something that triggers them back into suffering? No, actually. Yeah, like your partner waking up one day and telling you've been with someone else and now they're leaving and going off with them. I don't want to minimize your experience in any way or invalidate it, but the question you asked is, if somebody's totally awake, it is possible to have experiences like that and not react, and not suppress a reaction. You might feel some emotion, but you might not. You know, what we don't like about these things. Again, I'm talking generally. I'm not invalidating your experience at all. I know this is very difficult, but what we don't like about these things isn't the actuality of the situation. Really, it's our interpretation of it. That's what we don't like. We don't like that what we thought was happening is not what's happening, or what we thought was going to happen for the next year or 2 years, 10 years, and the rest of your life isn't going to happen the way you thought it was. What I have found in my own experience through years and years of observation after awakening and working with other people is, what we really don't like is the expectations being dashed. And we also, to some degree, don't like the emotions we have to feel when things happen. And the combination of those causes a lot of sort of repressed stuff. Avoidance of certain truths that we may not want to see. We can hide a lot in relationships. We can hide a lot in identity, but a relationship also has its own type of identity. What I will say is, you're going to learn a lot, and this is a good thing in the long run for you, I think, because it's a disruption, and disruptions are always ripe for seeing more clearly, seeing with more depth, experiencing things you didn't know you could experience and thought you didn't want to experience. They show you that your bandwidth for experience is far beyond what you thought it was. Yeah. And again, not talking about your personal experience and invalidating it all. I totally get it. I understand how painful that is for you. I'm just talking a little bit more in general because this is a public comment, and it will work out, of course. And it is possible, and for some people it is the case, although it doesn't really help you in the moment, right? But it is the case that you can go through things like this with surprising equanimity, including death of loved ones, which I have. So, yeah, be aware of that. It's possible. But again, it doesn't help you right now, does it? You can't think your way out of it. It's like you got to feel what you have to feel. But it's a really good opportunity to look at reactivity, right? If you want to. If you want to work with like Fetter 4 and 5, that's it. This is it, right? The setup is simple. This person, this person isn't staying. This person isn't staying with me. They said they would, and they're not. This person doesn't love me anymore. I don't know what the situation is, but those are the statements to bring you right to that gap of discomfort, and that's where the reactivity cauldron is. That's where you can really look closely and see, do I have to react to this? My mind was telling me I do, of course. No, you have to. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to tell them this. I need to tell that person this. I need to find help. I need to. But go to the gap again. Like, feel it. Man, it's so uncomfortable. There's something here that's so restless. But the simple truth is this person didn't stay. They didn't do what I wanted them to do. That's it. They didn't uphold their side of the bargain, whatever it is, right? That's what the truth of it is. Now, what happens is we get into reaction very quickly. We get into and they should have, right? What they should have done. And, but the problem with that is it leads us down a thought trail. The truth of it is simple. This is what they're doing. And this is, more importantly, what they're not doing that I thought they were going to do. And seeing that, it's like we can find the nucleus of reactivity. Now, I'm talking to somebody who's had an awakening, according to what you wrote up here. So understand, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but this is what you can do if you want to. Go right to that nucleus of discomfort. It may take you days, it may take you weeks, but you can find it. You can really find the truth of it, the truth of what I'm pointing to. And what I'm pointing to is that you can actually unhook the belief that I have to react to this because of the sensations of restlessness, discomfort. It'll feel really uncomfortable. That's how this goes, right? But the beauty of it is once you get to the core of discomfort, there's nothing more to do. You know that. What adds even more discomfort is you feel like you have to figure out what to do about it. That's so uncomfortable because you can't do anything about it. This person's left or whatever, right? Like once, I don't know the whole story, but once it's done, it's done. Like you can't undo it. And you know that. So it's like la la land to believe we can change reality by thinking about it or obsessing about it or getting mad at somebody or all that stuff may happen, but it's not going to change what reality is. The reality of this moment is X, right? Whatever that statement is. So once you really digest that, you can stay right in that gap. Even though it's totally uncomfortable, you realize, oh, this is truth. This is the truth of the situation. Really, nothing more. And by staying in the gap, you learn something. You learn something precious, really. But you got to stay there to know that. You got to stay there to know that. So that's what you can do. It's one thing you can do. And this is a really, really good opportunity to do it. Even though it may not feel like you want to do work here, it's a great opportunity to do it. So, yeah. And I really hope everyone who's involved in this, the best. Okay. Someone said, this is Renko, when the matrix starts short-circuiting, bzz, bzz, bzz. This is in reference to when the wheels come off. Okay, and then the question from the same person. When the short-circuiting is ongoing, is it unstoppable at that point? Yeah. Like, why would you want to stop that? It just keeps short-circuiting. It's perfect, right? What is actually short-circuiting? That's the question. Is reality short-circuiting? Or is all of our goofy beliefs that we're in control of reality, the grasping, the orienting, the inherent views that keep trying to form, that's what's on tilt now. That's what's just going bzz, 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 bzz. Let it keep doing that. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's just dismantling itself. What a gift that is, right? Huge gift. It's doing it itself now. You don't have to try to convince yourself you're doing it. The dismantling is ongoing. The release is endless. Nothing is accumulated. It's perfect. Love it. Okay. Someone says, I have complete aphantasia. This is from Ecologies of Mindfulness. Man, the names are great. I have complete aphantasia. I have to use mental chatter and hear the narrative and tap into the emotional body sensations it produces, fear, anger, and sadness in the body. Okay. Sounds good. I think it's common for a while to when we're not completely in touch with emotion to have to actually follow the thoughts of, what is the narrative? And then what does that narrative suggest? Oh, it suggests I may be feeling jealousy. Oh my God, I am feeling jealousy, right? Over time, I think it can be more primary. You just notice the sensations and then you notice, oh, this is, whatever, fear, maybe disorientation, who knows? And at some point, it's just the sensations. You realize you're fine with just sensation, that you don't have to do anything about it, analyze it, label it, call it anything, and you can stay in that. It's a little different for everybody, but that's the kind of evolution generally. Okay. Someone says, Angelo, how about an interview with Jeff Foster? Good idea. I could interview Jeff Foster. He's a nice guy, and I've met him. All right. Okay. This is an interesting question. Let me see if I can put it together. What about the Indian non-dual realizers? So I'm thinking you mean on traditional Advaita Vedanta, who are able to confess, that's a funny way to say it, I am God. And certainly many of the classics, Santana Dharma scriptures, I don't know what that is, insist this whole manifest display is unreal, that the only reality is the unmoving Atman Brahman. And that really nothing is happening or has ever happened. I like the last part. It is obvious in some sense, in a very real sense, that nothing has happened and nothing could happen. Really strange, I know. And also, you can't deny the vivid textures of presence, you know? Like, how are you going to deny that? But is it something happening? I don't think so. There's nothing being acted upon, right? So it's just these mere bare appearances, which is really strangely enjoyable, but it has no backing. It has no basis. So there you go. Would you call that God? I don't know. You might. I don't. Yeah. Is it real or unreal? I would say it's beyond real or unreal. It's not in those categories. Okay. Good question. All right. Someone said, is there really distraction? Why do thoughts get such a bad rap? Kate Higgins. Good question. Is there really distraction? You know, you could get really distracted thinking about that. Nothing wrong with thoughts per se. But let's say you have a thought that says, I need to kill that person before they kill me. If you have that belief, it could lead to violence, right? If you have a belief that a certain race, I'm using extreme examples, but a certain race is inferior to yours. That's kind of a thought, really, because you're not going to find that in actual experience. So it's a thought, it's a belief. So it's distorting, can lead to violence, can lead to delusion, can lead to all kinds of stuff, right? If you have a thought that you're a rotten person and it's buried deep in your psyche and a lot of beliefs are associated with that, you're going to act in accordance with that. So there you go. I mean, I don't know. Are thoughts good or bad? Are they problematic? I think they can be, for sure. Yeah. And then distraction. Yeah, I mean, distractions are what help us not see this, that we hold these beliefs, that we hold these selfish views, that we hold this delusion. And distractions are often what keep that dualistic experience going. So again, you can judge that. I don't need to, but I mean, it's obvious. Okay. This is from Prue Evans. Gratitude, Dr. Angelo. You are showing how much of what I thought was as an enlightened views are superficial, inaccurate, and unskillful. I had settled down and dozed off in the warm sunshine of smug platitudes, it seems. I trot them out to others as truths, which may be helpful in a certain stage, but misleading to others. Oh, totally. I will just keep quiet. Love it. And my friends roll around in hysterics here. Words do tend to roll off the tongue pointlessly. Yeah, I mean, it's good to recognize our own sort of stuff that we do, our coping mechanisms, which maybe they're without us realizing why they're there. We could be using spiritual platitudes to talk to other people as a sort of superiority thing or a defense mechanism or just to have an identity. That's my identity now, whatever, right? But yeah, if we identify with spiritual concepts, if we use spiritual concepts to construct or maintain an identity, then that's not what I'm pointing to. It happens all the time, but it's not what I'm pointing to. I'm pointing to the possibility of deconstructing the identity itself, or seeing through it, essentially. Waking up to your true nature, which does not require platitudes. But yeah, I appreciate your vulnerability and honesty there. Okay, I have a video called How Awake Are You? Use this simple test to find out. And they said, this isn't a test. This is, I don't know what the name is. Hard to pronounce. This isn't a test, more like a form of guided meditation. Well, you got me. You caught me red-handed. I like to point to your true nature all the time, always, in everything I do, no matter what it sounds like I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. In this setting, Q&As, guided meditations, talks, informational videos, Q&As like this, Q&As in person. All I'm ever doing is pointing to true nature over and over and over and over and over in different ways. Yeah. This is great. George said, once the mind gets a hold of a poetic pointing, watch how quickly we re-enter the nightmare. So cynical and true. But it is, like, the mind is so funny. Like, thought will co-opt everything. It's just like that. Once you see through it and you don't get enticed by it anymore, it doesn't matter. It's funny, but it does do that, right? So if you identify with those thoughts, whew, yeah, right back in the nightmare. Someone said, Susan Amos said, I am so good looking as Angelo. Okay. The Headless Way, interview with Richard Lang. You probably are. Okay. I think I know who you are. Maybe I don't. And then Susan said, oh my gosh, in tears, so direct. Wow. She was talking about the same video. Okay. All right. Okay. This comes from Martin Spearing. There's a quote. Thus you should view the fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a thundercloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. The Diamond Sutra. That's beautiful. This comes from my video called Is This All a Dream? That's a really cool quote. And then they say, the key phrase is should view to help counteract the mind's tendency to see solidity, permanence everywhere. The verse doesn't say the world is a dream or a flash or a phantom, because that would just be reification entering through the back door. Totally. Good job. That's right. That's what I'm saying in the video. Exactly. These pointers, they can be good pointers, right? This is all a dream. Impermanence, the Buddhist doctrine of impermanence. All these are pointers. But if you say reality is impermanent, then yeah, you're reifying some objective reality, right? That's not the point. The point is to undo strong tendencies. So the best pointing, all it can really do is undo strong tendencies, or highlight strong tendencies such that they undo themselves. What that leads to is beautifully stated in the Heart Sutra, which says, freed from delusive hindrance and rid of the fear bred by it, right? All that can say is what you're not. It doesn't say anything actual about reality. So yeah, very good. And your nuance here is great, that the verse does say, thus you should view the fleeting world. This is a correction. This is an antidote. And that's how these sutras work. The potent sutras, that's exactly what they do. The Heart Sutra is full of that kind of thing. It's saying, you think it's like this, it's not. You think it's like that, it's not. This appears, it's not. That appears this way, it's not. It's just like, it doesn't give you anywhere to stand anymore. And when you have nowhere to stand, then identity can essentially collapse. Okay, thanks for your questions. That was really fun. Y'all, I appreciate your support, your questions, your comments, your sharings, and your commitment to the Dharma. I do wish you all fruition.